SmartB Sports Update Podcast is brought to you by Optimum CBD. For all your rest and recovery needs, CBD products are your best bet. Go to OptimumCBD.store to order now. Free delivery on all orders over $99. You must be over 18 to order. I use Optimum CBD products personally for my rest and recovery. I train 6 days a week in Jiu-Jitsu, as you've probably heard on the SmartB Sports Update Podcast. I teach, I train, I compete. And without Optimum CBD products, I wouldn't be able to do it. Optimum CBD for all your rest and recovery needs.
Welcome to a very special edition of the SmartB Sports Update. It's our Grand Final preview edition, and we've got a very special guest, one of our SmartB ambassadors, and Penrith Panthers 2003 Premiership winning captain, Craig Gower. Welcome again, Craig.
Dan, good to be here, mate. It's Grand Final week. How good.
Thanks for coming, mate, and very well timed that you've come in this week, mate, with your Panthers reaching a fifth straight Grand Final, going for their fourth straight Premiership title. It's just an extraordinary run of dominance from your boys.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, they put themselves in this position, but also what the club's done, through the back end of developing the players and so forth, and with guys leaving the club. So certainly fantastic for the community. Great following out there, and certainly a big job this week.
Yeah, 100%. I know there were a couple of quotes of interest from a couple of people over the weekend. One was from Michael Ennis on Fox League. He said he was talking about the catchment area they've got out at Penrith. And he said, they do have a big catchment area, but it's what you do with it. And Penrith have been able to take advantage of it, maximise their talent out there. And it's just an extraordinary run of dominance. And the other one of interest was from Craig Fitzgibbon, the Sharks coach. After that game, he said, look, Penrith are in the middle of a dynasty, we're in the middle of development. And that's the difference at the moment. So just...
Yes, yeah. Certainly from Mick's point of view, there is a big catchment area, but we haven't always... use it to our advantage, but they are now.
Yep.
But also other clubs are using that catchment as well, because they're taking these kids younger into their systems, because we've got so many kids out in our area. So you looked at, I think Canterbury played Cronulla in the Jersey Flegg Grand Final last week. Penrith didn't make the SG Ball or Matthews, so there's certainly a changing of the guard, because that wasn't the case, a few years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how, as a club, we can get through that sort of period where now it's all about you've got to pick the right kids instead of having the influx of all the kids there. So that's going to be crucial for all recruitment, and you're not going to pick every kid that's going to make first grade. It's just it doesn't work like that. But one thing is that these kids start in our area, and hopefully we can keep them there.
Yeah, 100%. We might just talk about that prelim final. Penrith winning 26-6 over the Sharks at Accor Stadium on Saturday evening. There, Panthers probably not at their best for a lot of that game. They made 11 handling errors. It was only 10-6 with 18 to go. After that try to Katoa, it was a bit controversial. Not sure if he got the ball down, but anyway, that's another story. But once Cleary put To'o in for that try at the 62nd minute, there were two more tries after that. They got it done in the end, but they were a bit scrappy there for 60 minutes or so.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't their best performance. I thought they looked a little bit lethargic there, that first sort of period of the game. Cronulla, they come out firing, and... we didn't have our best football on, I assure you that. But at the end of the day, the boys got the job done. Nathan turned that first half around by the 40-20, and then obviously then he goes to the line and puts a nice short ball on, and try time, and that sort of gets them back into the game. Moving forward, hopefully the boys just took Sharks a little bit easy, because they've pumped them the last couple of times that they played, and I know there was Bulldog wrote some stuff in the Telegraph about the stats of playing the Sharks, so I'm just hoping that was the case. Because you've seen the way that they played against the Roosters, that was a completely different side, and you're going up against Melbourne now, and you'll need to be like the way that they played in that first half for the whole 80 minutes, because they're certainly they're a complete package.
Yeah, the two games previous to that, the Sharks Panthers clashes, Penrith actually won by a combined score of 70-0. The previous time they won 42-0 without Nathan Cleary. Yeah. So you're sort of hoping that, as you just alluded to,
you try not to let that get into your mindset. Mm-hmm. But it's hard. Mm-hmm. You know, you're in a prelim, so you know you shouldn't be going in that way. But you know, the mind works funny ways sometimes. But that. But after watching the Ivan's press conference and him having a shot at the bunker, and that, I thought he's completely right. That was a disgusting call. That call for referee. Talakai just come out of the line, and he knew he couldn't get there anyway, so he thought he'd just run into him because he'd get the penalty. Yeah. And this is where it's not black and white. I know Wayne, he made a call about the bunker because the guy turned in. I thought Wayne was right there, and there was other guys that thought he wasn't right because the inside defender on the outside player couldn't get across. Well, but it was the guy that made the wrong defensive read in the first place. So, you know, if you make a read, well, this is where I don't know if the referees understand what they're trying to achieve as, you know, you run that inside line. I understand if you hit the outside shoulder, yes, but if you hit inside, and the guys just actually ran out of the line to run into him because he knew he was going to get the penalty. Yeah. Or it was, you know, I just thought that was a poor call. And the try was scored in the corner. It was 2 passes off where that incident occurred. So it had nothing to do with, you know, I mean, the try was scored a long way from where that incident occurred. And the big thing about that is that players play for that now. It's as simple as that. If they know they can get away with something, they'll do it because it's the so-called rules now. You know? So. Which is, so it's going to be interesting. I don't know. Who's going to ref this? Who's reffing this week? To be honest, I don't think that's been announced just yet. Yeah. But I think it's either going to be, it'll either be Grant Atkins or Ashley Klein. Yeah. Adam G. What's going on there? That's the thing. Most people said, well, Adam G did a really good job in that grand final last year, and he's just been completely overlooked. Yeah. I don't think he even got a gig in any of the finals games this year. So whether something's happened behind the scenes there, we're not sure about. Well, obviously there has, because you know, how do you go from refereeing the grand final the year before to not even being around? Yeah. So it's certainly there's some sort of things going on where they've made that call. So. 100%. I've just checked the NRL website. I don't think an announcement's been made on that grand final referee yet, but it will be Atkins or Klein. Maybe they'll make that announcement together with the team list coming out. Well, you think it'd be Klein, wouldn't you? Because he refereed the State of Origins. Probably. So, how if it was Klein, how would you feel about that? Would you prefer, and it's not going to happen, but you'd prefer Adam G, wouldn't you? After last year's grand final? Yeah, but you know, it's like anything. You can't, just because he did it well, then hopefully Ashley Klein can referee a clean game and you know, give both teams the opportunity to perform well for the fans. Yeah. Would you prefer, and there's always a lot of talk about this, but would you prefer the referee to sort of put the whistle away, leave it alone, and give the players the chance to sort it out? The danger with that, though, and Greg Alexander rightly pointed out on Fox the other night, is if you go too lightly, well, then they take advantage of it. Yeah, well, it's up to the referee to get the feel of the game. So I don't understand how, you know, you don't put the whistle away during the season, and you referee the game on its merits, and then go, well, hold on, they're trying to take the piss here. Let's rein them in. That's the thing, though. You just referee to the rule book, don't you? I mean, that's in theory. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. I just don't understand how all of a sudden you have these little crackdowns and then all of a sudden they're pinging you all the time. Like, no one plays the ball no more. Like, they just roll under their legs. Like, but then a couple of years ago, I think they had a crackdown on that. You know, like, so I don't know if it's if they're just trying to pick and choose what they want to sort of clamp down on and what they don't want to clamp down on. So and that's the thing. I mean, the referee can only referee to the rule book, can't they? I mean, that's what it's there for. It's sort of like
people, and Phil Rothfield's one who always says, "Oh, the referee should put the whistle away. It's better for the game." But I mean, the referee is there to implement the rules of the game.
Yeah.
And,
well, he's there to adjudicate.
Yeah.
But it's like anything. If one team's trying to take the piss out of something, well, you need to referee correctly.
Yeah.
Yes, we all want an open game, but that's up to the players to actually abide by the rules and put their best foot forward and play a clean game.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the referee. I mean, no matter how it goes, obviously we hope that the referee doesn't decide the game and the game goes the way of the best side on the night.
Well, everyone plays the same block plays and all the rest of it, so surely, they should be able to get that right, or have multiple guys in there in the bunker to actually referee on it to adjudicate it. I don't know if you have 2 or 3 blokes in there, but they'll probably be arguing it with each other anyway, because it's all about someone's opinion.
Yeah. Do you think more ex-players should get involved with it?
Well, I think there should be an element of that.
Is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, well, it's like anything. If the game wants to go down that path, yes, then you'd get a player in to go, well, okay, well, what's he trying to do there? And then you can see in what the player does, the defensive player, if he's actually trying to get to the guy, or he's just taking the piss and not just trying to play for a penalty. So
that's where it can't be black and white. That's where you need to have the discretion in those instances.
But in saying that, you're always going to have a different view from one player to the next. So you're never going to eradicate, the debate about if it's a shepherd or not.
Yeah, what do you make of Talakai not being sin bin for that cheap shot on Jerome Luai? Andrew Johns was filthy about it in the Channel 9 commentary. That's something he's been really strong on. He doesn't like these late hits on the playmakers. I'm guessing you're probably the same. Yeah,
well, he's completely turned his back, and at that particular time, he had so much time to pull out. So, for him to stay on the field, and it was some big impact. It was. So I think it was pretty poor option. And then even the trip from Rudolph, that was, that's always been adjudicated on properly.
Are they going too lightly on trips now? Like players just getting fined for trips?
At the end of the day, that was a reaction thing. It's not a blatant trip where he's just, it's a reaction thing because he's like he was trying to pull him down, but it's just one of those things where his thought pattern wasn't right, but he was getting beaten, so he tried to do anything he possibly could. But I didn't. That stuff sort of doesn't really worry me. But that late shot was pretty poor, and then you got the other way when Garner pushed the Cronulla Sharks front row, so and he got a penalty for it. Like well, wasn't start playing touch. Like, Like, seriously.
100%. That's 11 straight finals wins for Penrith. That's a premiership record. It's an extraordinary achievement. Haven't lost a finals game since week 1 in the 2021 finals against the Rabbitohs. Just their ability to basically... we mentioned that they were off their game for the first 60 minutes the other night. Just their ability not to let that hurt them on the scoreboard. That defence gives them such a safety net. They're the best defensive team in the comp. And they can just rely on that so heavily when they're not at their best.
Yeah, well, you got some of the best players in the game in that team. So, they can weather the storm. I'm sure that they wouldn't be happy with that performance. But when you have got Nathan in the team, everything sort of falls off the back of that. Gowie was unbelievable through the middle. How much work he got through. It's unbelievable how many games he plays and continually plays 80 minutes. And Fisher Harris, Leota, there's Luai, even you look at Mitch Kenny, how much he's improved his game. Defensively, he's unbelievable. He's speed of the line. I'd like to see his creativity out of the dummy half, just not throw those cutouts or the balls, just be a bit more understanding of, just play short first and his run options. But see, certainly his game's progressed tenfold on what he was, which has been great. And then you got Dylan and Toto at the back. The back the back five got great numbers as well. So there's just a classy side that can go to that next level, and they will need to against Melbourne next week or this week.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think maybe the sluggish start from Penrith, and like a lot of people say, oh, it's a huge advantage having the week off at this time of the year, but could the sluggish start, could that be maybe put down a little bit to having the week off? Does that throw you off a little bit?
I don't think it does.
Okay.
I think it's good to refresh, especially this time of the year. One thing about that with the Penrith team is that they haven't been together that much this year. Like the true core. You know, Nathan's missed a lot of games. Fish Harris missed the games. Liam Martin's hasn't played as much as well. You know, but they all play their role as the Melbourne team do. They play their roles really well. They're all both teams are great units, and it's just going to turn into one of the all-time grand finals. I think.
You mentioned the Melbourne team just there. That they were on fire against the Roosters on Friday night. A great performance. They scored 48 points. That's the most they've ever scored in a finals match. This battle between the Melbourne attack and the Penrith defence this week in the grand final, it's going to be a mouth-watering one for sure.
Oh yeah, I think both sides. I think if you look at this game, it's crucial that Penrith start fast, but they can't just play one-out football, because that's where that plays into Melbourne's armoury, because of defensively they'll three-out you because they're the best wrestlers in the game. I think the way they beat Melbourne is by your support play front. You know, the making short passes, trying to get people one-on-one or running with two defenders, so it gives you the options to get quicker play the ball so that you can play off the back of that. Melbourne, you have a look at Hughes, Munster, Pappenhausen, Grant, like unbelievable players. Hughes his run game is unbelievable at the moment. So, and it seems like he's more of a run option first before he pass, and that's always dangerous for your pass game, because you're so worried about him running the ball. And he certainly dished it up to the Roosters last weekend.
Yeah, a little bit similar, that prelim between the Storm and the Roosters, a little bit similar to the Panthers Sharks, in that the Roosters were in the game. It was 24-18, but then Melbourne just blew them away with those last 4 converted tries there to stretch it out to 48-18. And those two other teams just not able to go with Penrith and Melbourne for the full 80 minutes.
And that's going to be the big thing in this game, is that it's whatever side can play that 80 minutes at the highest of intensity as that they possibly can, and also take their options when they come. And it's going to be the big moments in the game where these guys have half chances and they turn them into points. And that's going to be the thing that gets the team over the line. I think it's going to be a very close game. Losing Nelson is a big loss. He certainly gives you that second phase play, and he's a big boy through the middle. So.
Yeah, so he just now that you mentioned that, he is going to actually fight that charge at the judiciary. Well, I'll just point out to our listeners and viewers, we're recording this on Monday afternoon. Nelson Asofa Solomona is going to actually fight this charge at the judiciary on Monday night. I believe he needs a double downgrade to be able to play. It's very highly unlikely that he'll get off that charge and be able to play in this game.
If he gets a double downgrade, so all the other stuff that's been gone to judiciary this year is out the window, because he's hit the guy high, and the bloke's category 1. He's out of the game so. You've taken the guy out of the game. You've got to pay a price for that. It doesn't matter if he's hit him on the chest. Obviously they're trying to get away from burning him on the shoulder, but he's hitting him on the chest. But he's hitting him on the jaw. So at the end of the day, that's back to technique. Lowering your frame of where you're actually going to hit the guy. And I understand there's 3 blokes going into the same spot, but if there's 3 blokes going in the same spot to hit around the same spot, like around the ball. And it doesn't take much for a guy to lower his level and you hit him on the chin. Like you've seen in the Penrith game, where he's lost his footing. And he's copped a slap around the head, and he still gets penalised for it. Well, where's he supposed to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's a completely different scenario, isn't it? I mean, he was down, he was right down
at his legs. But it's still a penalty. Was it a penalty? What?
But that was different to the Asafa Solomon one, wasn't it? Yeah, so that's
tenfold.
So that's the thing. So I think, is it fair to say that too often, and I think one of the commentators on Fox said it the other night, I can't remember which one. I think it may have been actually Corey Parker who actually said, "Look, what's he supposed to do?" And then you sort of go, "Well, you know, I mean, well, as you mentioned, it's a technique thing."
Well, if he's 6'7", how about you bend your back and try and get underneath the ball instead of trying to hit on the ball? Yeah. Like, this is where, you know, it always gets murky, but that's what they're trained to do. They're trained to hit around on the ball. So, you know, I feel sorry for Nelson because he's a great player and he's, you know, to miss a grand final, but that's how it was. You know, like.
But maybe that line gets thrown around a bit too often. That where's he supposed to go? I know in the instance you mentioned the Cronulla Penrith game, where he fell basically at his knees. It might have been Hazelton. It was Hazelton. Yeah. So he's down at his knees. I mean, like, seriously, what are you supposed to do? Yeah. But as we pointed out, the Asafa Solomona one was a different scenario.
Yeah, Lindsay's certainly he's dipped when he's gone in, but still, as soon as you hit the bloke in the head, and he's played the ball backwards, like, so he was certainly out. And it's going to be a big loss for Melbourne, but I'm sure that they'll have some young fella to come in and try and do the job as well as Nelson can.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talk about their opponents the other night, the Roosters who've just bowed out. This record they got against the Storm and the Panthers, it's a real concern. The Storm have now won 11 of their last 12 against the Roosters. The Roosters have only won 1 of 22 games against the Storm and the Panthers since 2020. I mean, at some stage, Nick Politis is in his rights to go to Trent Robinson and say, well, look, what are you going to do about this? I mean, this is not a great record at all against the two best sides, and they're losing players now as well.
Yeah. But that's just football, but too. You know, like, you got two better. Effectively, they're two better teams, and when both teams come up against each other, they're all trying to play the best football they can. You know, I thought the Roosters started really well the other day, and they were in the game, but they just couldn't go with it. So, you know, and obviously you've lost Sammy Walker out of that team, and the hooker as well. So, you know, like, they're two big losses. I thought they went well, but leading into next year, well, they've got a lot of players that they're going to miss. So I'm not too sure, you know, what their recruitment is like.
Yeah, Luke Keary, Joseph Manu, Joseph Suoli'i, Satili Tupanua, he's going to the Bulldogs. JWH is also leaving. So a lot of players leaving. The Roosters, as you mentioned, not having Sam Walker or Brandon Smith. They were always going to be up against it in this final series once they came up against the two best sides.
And they held a good account for themselves, but they just... If you looked at the season, you've got the two best teams playing the grand final. So it's pretty much as simple as that. It didn't matter when you're looking at the semi-finals coming through, and you're trying to look for an upset and so forth. But, you know, these two teams were always, you know, the two top teams of the competition, and they're playing in the grand final. So I think it's a good thing.
And that's the thing. Over the course of the final series, the only game that went against the positions they finished on the ladder at the end of the season was that Bulldogs-Manly final. 7 beat 6 in that game. Every other finals game, the higher ranked team won the game. So I think we've got a fair outcome here. As you said, we've got the two best sides in the grand final.
And it's the game that everyone wants to see, to go up against each other. You know, you look at both sides are stacked full of, you know, wonderful players, and it's just going to end up being a fantastic grand final.
100%, and it's really difficult to pick a winner in this game. I mean, I know you're going to tip Penrith because that's where your heart lies, but for neutrals who are watching it, it's really hard to pick a winner. I've looked at a number of bookmaker websites, and the odds are 50-50 for this one. It's on a knife's edge.
It's funny how they revert back to Penrith won the last 3 grand finals. Well, that's in the past. You know, this season, Melbourne were minor premiers, so they're the number 1 team.
Yeah, Melbourne were minor premiers. Melbourne won both games against Penrith this year as well. the last time these two sides met in a grand final in 2020, Melbourne won it. So, and I know the rosters have changed since then, and I know the dynamic has changed because Penrith, back then, they were a team that had little grand final experience. Now they're a team that's won 3 premierships in a row. So we've got a different dynamic here. But as you pointed out, it's a different season. Yeah. And Melbourne are going to be right in this one.
You got a lot of young guys that are very hungry in the Melbourne. Craig Bellamy's been there and done that. I'm certainly picking Penrith, but I'm shit scared of Melbourne. Yeah. Just because of the way that they're playing their football, and Nathan's playing busted. We're going to need every player to play to their ability to get over the top of them.
Yeah, 100%. Just having a look at that. Yeah, so since that 2020 grand final I mentioned, Penrith leads 6-4 in the head-to-head count between these teams. That includes 2 Week 3 finals victories in 2021 and 2023. So they have sort of squared the ledger a little bit there, the Panthers on the Storm.
Yeah, I was at the game when Melbourne come to Penrith Park, and I was out in the field, and I just watching both teams warm up. They were both on, but you could see Melbourne were there to make a statement, and it went down to 2 points, and there was a suspect penalty from Fisher Harris with a little push, like late push on. So Nathan went off the ground, and it was so close. So I think that Penrith's got the ability to win this game, no doubt about it. But it seems like Melbourne have just gone to another level these last couple of games, especially Munster running the ball as much as he has, Hughes with his running game. So they really hurt the Roosters the other day with their run game. Pappenhausen as well. They're just quality players.
They just looked a lot quicker than the Roosters. They just looked so much quicker on the ground than the Roosters.
Yeah, but that's all down to how much ball you got. If you're playing off a quick play of the ball or a slow play of the ball, and they're certainly playing off the front foot.
Yeah, and hard, as we said, harder for the Roosters without those key players we talked about.
Yeah, of course, and that's the other thing too. If you play one out football against Melbourne, they'll smother you, and in a way that you can't play. You'll be playing off slow play the balls, and that's the hardest thing to do against Melbourne because their defensive line's set. It's fast moving, and if they put 3 in a tackle, the next one's slow.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing about playing Melbourne is trying to get those quick play the balls all the time, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, 100%. Just you mentioned just before the Storm finished as minor premiers this year, Penrith finished the regular season in 2nd spot. Their attacking rankings at the end of the regular season, the Storm was 2nd in attack, the Panthers were 6th in attack, but in defence, the Panthers were the best side in defence, the Storm were 4th. So as we talked about before, that Panthers defence going up against that Melbourne attack, that's really going to be, for the neutrals, that's going to be really something to savour here.
Yeah. I think it's both ways. Defensively, both teams need to be on because both teams can attack, and they can throw different levels at you of what they do. Nathan plays a lot of back through the ruck until they see the opportunity to go wide. You've got Gowie there playing through the middle with his short passing game, but with Melbourne, they haven't got much of a pass going through the middle. It's more through Hughes and Munster and so forth. So, Howard is the centre. He's been, a revelation for him out there. He was a young guy coming through. He was a second rower. They put him out there to give him the opportunity, and he's been fantastic. Wishart comes off the bench, throws something else at you. Yeah. So they've certainly got different options. When they're playing against each other. But it's going to be down to those big moments where they get the half chances. It's in those big games, that's how they are. Yeah. It's the half chances that turn into points. Yeah. And whoever's good enough to capitalise is going to win the game.
And Craig Fitzgibbon mentioned that in the post-game press conference the other night after that game against the Panthers. He said if you give them an inch, they take it. Yeah. And that's what they do, that's what Melbourne do.
Well, and it doesn't matter where it's come from. They're playing off the back foot, and Nathan kicks a 40-20 on third tackle. That is just a massive momentum.
Yeah.
Then the Sharks have got to try and wrestle that back, and that's going to be the same. Even with the Melbourne Roosters game, there was big momentum swings. Like Roosters were on top of them at the beginning, and then it swung back to Melbourne, and then it swung back to the Roosters. It's just trying to get that momentum swing back to you as quick as you can to get yourself back on the front foot.
Yeah, and they just do it out of nowhere. They create it out of nothing, like that kick from Cleary for that try for To'o to put them up 14-6. At that time, Cronulla were in the game. It was 10-6.
Yeah.
So that little moment there that Penrith capitalised on.
And that's why they pay the big bucks, aren't they?
Yeah, Nathan certainly is, yeah. Just that Penrith defence over the final series, they only conceded 10 points against the Roosters, 6 against the Sharks. That's just 16 points across the two games. It's a brick wall defence. So they conceded less points in the two games than the Storm did against the Roosters, the 18. Yeah. So is there something there that Penrith defence, does it give them the edge here?
Not particularly, because they scored 24 against them when they played.
Yeah, true.
So they come with a game plan there where they kick to our wingers, because you had Warbrick and Coates that are 6'5", jump like the wind, and we've got smaller wingers. We're going to have to need to count that, because they'll certainly test that out again. And they were mostly attacking kicks on To'o, because you had Warbrick coming down on the fly, and they weren't like they were deep kicks either. So that's certainly something that they're going to have to look at, because I think that they tried to exploit that when they played at Penrith Park. So it's going to be a battle of tactics of through the coaches, or how they want to go about trying to break each other down. So defensively, Penrith need to be at their best. And they're going to need to support those wingers, and that's going to happen with the outside centre like Alamotti and Jake Taylor to get back there and support the wingers as best they can.
Yeah, he was good the other night, Alamotti scoring a double.
Yeah.
That's just an example of just sensational salary cap management from the Panthers. They lose someone like Stephen Crichton in the outside backs. They bring in Alamotti from the Bulldogs, and I'd imagine, I don't know what they're paying him, but I'd imagine he's not on too high a salary, not taking too much out of their cap. But for him to just do the job he's done this year and cap it off with those 2 tries the other night.
Yeah, well, because you had McLean there, and obviously had May there as well, beginning of the year before all the stuff went down with him. So, Paul's just got his opportunity, and he's taken it. He's been great. That was probably his best game he's played all year. His kick pressure. Trying to play those 50-50 balls, and defensively he was sound. Probably the one area he could have played down that short side when he dummied. Yeah. But but overall he had a fantastic game, and he's going to need to go to another level on the grand final week, because they're coming up against a great team.
I think Ivan might have said the same as you. I think in the post-game press conference he said he thought that was Alamotti's best game of the season as well.
Yeah, he did everything right, and when you come away with a win, and you've contributed to the team by your actions and by your effort. I thought he played wonderful.
Yeah, this battle of the spines between the Storm and the Panthers is going to be very interesting. You've got Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes and Grant against Edwards, Luai, Cleary and Kenny. That's going to be something to really look forward to. Obviously, they're going to have a huge bearing on the result, whichever way it goes.
Well, it's going to be down to the packs, but to who can dominate through the middle, where the halves can play off the front foot instead of trying to play off the back foot. Yep. Everyone knows it's a lot harder to play off a slow play of the ball. So I think that's how most games are determined, is by your forwards going forward and laying the platform. Those names you've just read out, they're all great players in their own right, and it's going to be up to one of those special players to come up with a big moment during the game to probably win the game.
I think this season that Nathan's had, it's just extraordinary given the injuries. He's carrying the shoulder injury, which I think he's going to have operated on once he gets through the grand final.
Yep.
So he's been carrying that shoulder injury. He's had 2 separate hamstring injuries this season. Just with these injuries, and he just keeps coming back and delivering. It's just It's just, this is just a phenomenal career he's building.
Well, it just shows how mentally tough he is to come back and play to a level, you know, like, which is ridiculous because, you know, he's had that much time off. Even from last year, he had an injury during that year as well. So, but he's just a pure class player, and you know, and a bloke himself. So he'll. This will be probably his biggest game of his life, I reckon, because there's that much pressure on him to deliver for the team. He's busted, and if he can get the result, like, it'll go down as one of the best wins that he's had, because there's so much adversity he's gone through this year, and to come out on top again would be wonderful for him, but also the club and the community itself.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at, though, if we're talking about the 3 grand finals that they've won going into this one, 2021 against South was a tight one. It was 14-12, they got up. Brisbane last year, of course, that comeback, extraordinary comeback, 26-24, 2 very tight games. The Parramatta one in 2022, it was a bit of a blowout, 28-12. You really get the feeling this one's going to be tight like 21 and 23, not so much like 22.
And you've got to look at the Penrith team as well. They, you know, every player that's come in, they've done their job. But those guys that haven't got that experience need to step up and go to another level. You know, you're missing some world-class players in from year to year. So these guys that have come up and haven't played in the grand final certainly have to go to that next level to contribute. So, you know, everyone can, so they can win the game, really, because you're going to need 17 players playing at their best of ability to beat the Melbourne team.
Yeah, 100%. If we go back to, we mentioned this is a 2020 grand final rematch. If we go back to 2020, Penrith had a very dominant season that year, finished as minor premiers, 5 points clear of Melbourne, who finished second. Penrith had only lost 1 game for the whole season going into the grand final that year. Melbourne just got them on grand final day, 26-20. You did sort of feel like watching it that maybe the scoreline did flatter the Panthers a little bit. Like Melbourne got out to that 26-0 lead.
Yep.
Penrith just pegged it back late. I think Jerome Hughes and Brandon Smith got sin bin in that second half, so that sort of allowed the Panthers to make up a bit of ground on the Storm.
Well, I left at half time. So
you left it. Oh, right. Okay.
I left at half time, so I already knew the result. So,
yeah, right. Okay.
You know, Cameron Smith at his finest.
Yeah, it was
controlling.
It was his last game. Yeah.
So that just showed you that their experience got them through that game. So now back the other way, where you know you still got class players with, you know, when you got Munster and Hughes in there, Harry Grant. You know, even Pappenhausen, but those mainly those 3, I think, because you know the amount of football they've played, and they've been there and done it as well. So that holds them in good stead. So you know, you can say all you want about the teams. It's just I just can't wait for the clash until and it's going to that start of the game to see who can assert themselves the quickest. It's going to be interesting to see, and if that. Whatever team it is, it's going to be interesting to see if that other team can wrestle it back straight away to try and get that momentum. And most games, that's how it is. It's all about the momentum in those big games. But it's you know, you look at both the coaches, what they've done as well in their careers as well with both teams. So it's, you know, it's just a mouth-watering clash. I think, and it's going to. I think it's going to break all records of like how many people watch this game, just because of the unknown of who can actually win the game.
Yeah, so, you really just don't know. No. You've got no idea. It's really hard to get a gauge on who's going to win.
It's just all, you know. I want Penrith to win because it's my hometown.
Your
team,
yeah.
That's my team. So. But you know, I look at that Melbourne side and just like I'm cringy, you know. So and
you're a bit nervous about it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you would be. Yeah.
Of course, you're nervous because if you've just seen what they've delivered so far this year, and they've beaten twice already. So but like anything, it's on the day, and whoever can, you know, seize the moment.
Yeah, just on that 2020 Grand Final. So there's only 5 players who are still at the Storm who are in that team. So Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes, Welch, and Asafa Solomona, although he won't be playing, so you may as well...
So it's pretty much just down to the spine.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the Panthers, the Panthers...
Welch is out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So just Pappenhausen, Munster, and Hughes.
Yeah.
And as for the Panthers, they've got 8 surviving players from that 2020 Grand Final. Edwards, To'o, Luai, Cleary, Fisher-Harris, Martin, Yeo and Leota all still at the Panthers.
So if you look at that, then you look at Penrith and you go, well, they've got the edge because they've got more players that have been there and done it and know what's coming at them on the big day. So
yeah. And that's a good point. That was Melbourne's last Grand Final. They haven't been back to a Grand Final since.
So how are those young kids that have come through, how are they going to handle the occasion? And that's the unknown. That's the unknown for them. So and you can say that with Penrith, but there's certainly a lot more experience sitting around them to guide them on the big day. So yeah, it's a cracker.
Yeah, I mean at that time the Panthers were chasing their first premiership since your premiership in 2003. Yeah. So the dynamic really has changed here. This is a 3-time premiership side now, not the inexperienced Grand Final side that went up against Melbourne 4 years ago.
Certainly not, because you could tell by the way that they started that game back when they played Melbourne. Melbourne, they got the jump on them straight from the beginning, and they just didn't take their foot off their throat. And when you got a Cameron Smith-led team, they certainly know how to get the job done.
Yeah, you mentioned you were there in 2020 in the crowd. We might remember at that time that was a COVID-affected Grand Final, only a 50% capacity of the crowd. Very different times now to what they were then.
Yes, yeah.
How much do you think last year... How much do you think that could help Penrith in this game? Just the way they won it last year, down by 16 points with 18 minutes to go, somehow coming back and winning that game.
I think the belief in the team's always been there. It just over the amount of years that they've been there and done it. It just you know in the back that you can actually get the job done, and. You've seen that in last year's Grand Final where Nathan come to the fore and got the job done. Obviously they need everyone to contribute, but he come up with the big plays. Yes, it's in the mind you can do it, but you don't want to be doing it that way either.
No,
you want to be getting out on your front foot, playing your best football. Trying to get an early lead, because then they've got to try and chase you down. You don't have to go away from playing absolute football or trying to throw something that you're not used to, and that's the thing that Penrith's really good at. They're really good at wrestling you and kicking game and being able to control the game by their defence. I
do wonder too. I wonder if Melbourne do happen to have a similar lead with 20-25 minutes to go, whether would they start to think about that? Would it enter their minds? Would they start to get the jitters with that? Say if they had a 14 or 16 point lead with 20 odd minutes to go.
I don't think either team is safe at any time. With the players that are on the field. Munster he plays off the cuff. You don't know what's going to come at you, especially if he's chasing the game. So it's going to be crucial that defensively you're on for the 80 minutes, and when you have a lapse, it's making sure you don't get hurt on the scoreboard.
Yeah, 100%. We will talk about your great premiership back in 2003 a little bit later, but just looking at Penrith's overall record in Grand Finals as well. Lost in 1990, won in 1991, of course, won in 2003, a great premiership win with you as the captain. Lost in 2020 and obviously won in 21, 22 and 23. They've won 5 and lost 2 Grand Finals, the Panthers. So it's going to be very interesting. As for the Storm, won it in 99, lost it in 06. Won it in 07, lost it in 08, won it in 09. Of course, 07 and 09 was stripped for salary cap breaches.
Cheaters.
Yep. Won it in 2012, lost it in 2016, won it in 2017, lost it in 2018, won it in 2020, as we talked about over the Panthers. So they've won 6 and lost 4, but with those 2 premierships stripped.
Yeah.
So both teams have pretty good records in grand finals, as you would expect.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, they won both those ones that they got stripped anyway. So it is what it is. But both clubs are certainly have been there a bit, and they've got the job done. For Melbourne, for how young they are as a club, it's a wonderful record.
Yeah.
Coaching from Chris Anderson to Craig Bellamy, 2 coaches, the whole period of being in the competition. So, what do you say about the game? I can't wait for it just to kick off.
Because
it's,
we can talk about it as much as we want, but we don't really know, do we? Until it.
And that's where you're going to be on the edge of your seat because it's just going to be one of those games, I think, where it's going to have it all, and the intensity of this game will be out of this world.
And that Panthers dynasty that Craig Fitzgibbon referred to in that post-game press conference, they've become the first team since the Rabbitohs between 1967 and 1971 to make 5 straight grand finals, looking to become the first team since the legendary St George team of 56 to 66, who won 11 in a row, just extraordinary, to claim 4 straight premierships. And, of course, they're already the first team to win 3 in a row since Parramatta in 81, 82 and 83. These are just phenomenal numbers for the Panthers.
No salary cap back then, though, was it? No salary cap.
It'd be hard to see a team winning 11 in a row now. But if anyone's going to do it...
it won't happen.
Yeah.
That's just impossible unless you got, stock lines of young kids coming through that, can get the job done. But
obviously you don't...
But who would have thought they would have won 3 in a row, being in 5 grand finals? Well, I bet you no one would say that that's possible at this in this juncture of where the game is at. So for everyone that's been involved to get them in that place, it's just been an amazing job and a great run. So let's just keep it going.
One
more.
100%. And of course, we don't wish any ill will on any teams with regard of injuries, of course. But you sort of think to get to 11 in a row, it's just impossible because eventually you'll have a year where injuries will get you, and it'll just be too hard.
11 won't happen.
No, it should just be too hard. This is big for a few Panthers who are departing the club after this game as well. James Fisher-Harris off to the Warriors, Jerome Luai off to the West Tigers. Not as high profile, obviously, but Sunia Taruva off to the West Tigers as well.
And there you go, another 3 players that are out of your starting side. So, to replace that experience, it's very hard to do. From even losing Crichton last year, and Burton and Kickow, and the list goes on. So it's crazy to think that they've replenished those players to be here again, to do it again with another 3. Certainly, you can't say that it won't happen, but. It's certainly starting to become more unlikely to be so as dominant as they have been.
Yeah, 100%. What Ivan's claimed the underdog tag for this game in the grand final.
But I think they are. But they are. If you look at the season, how are they? Just because you won 3 grand finals, that doesn't mean. That's last year.
Yeah.
No one, even thinking about last week. Who cares about last week? It's this week. It's 1 week.
That's the thing. If you're looking at relevant stats, minor premiers this year and 2 meetings this year are probably a bigger deal than 3 straight premierships last year and the previous year.
It's a different team.
Yeah.
It's a different team. So, and it was a different Melbourne team back then as well. So, I think Ivan's right. I think old Ivans, there's something up his sleeve with that team because I think he'll have them raring to go for this one. And you've seen the way that they played against the Roosters. I'm sure that they'll be at their best, considering they weren't at their best against the Sharks. So, I'm hopeful he's got something up his sleeve anyway, But it's he's done a wonderful job as a coach and all the coaching staff because they've done the job again to get them in a position to win another grand final.
Yeah, 100%. But we're talking about Ivan Cleary. He's going for his 4th premiership. Craig Bellamy also going for his 4th. with those 07 and 09 premierships stripped. Obviously, Ivans won it the 3 previous years, Bellamy in 2012, 2017, 2020. So the winner will have 4 premierships. Whoever loses will stay on 3. So it's sort of like a bit of a battle to see who's the top coach in the game. I know Wayne Bennett's won 7 premierships, but the last of those was back in 2010. Cleary, Bellamy and Robinson all on 3. That's about to change on Sunday night.
Yeah, well, they're all great coaches in their own right. They know that they've got the job done before, you know. But if you look at records and so forth, you have to think that Craig Bellamy would be the #1 coach.
So I heard,
just from out-and-out record sort of thing, win percentage and so forth.
I heard Gordon Tallis on NRL 360 the other night say that he thinks if all those coaches started the year with the same team, he thinks Bellamy's team would get the best results.
Yeah.
So that was his opinion on it.
Yeah, it's a hard one because it's all hypothetical. You know, you're trying to say what, but you never know. You never know. Like if Wayne had, because I've been coached by Wayne, he's an amazing coach. He knows how to get the best out of you as a player, and as they all do. But you know, when you had, from my point of view, I've had first-hand experience with Wayne as a coach, and even Bellyache when we're on tour as well. So not as such with Bellyache as a coach, you know, at Clubland. So you know, I'm not too sure there, but you know, Wayne was certainly up there.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think is going to be like? I guess the deciding factor in this game, if you had to bring it down to one thing? It's going to be up to the halves. It's going to be up to the halves to ice the big moments. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. Like if you look at, you know, from my experience with grand finals, it was Luke Prittis that came up with 3 unbelievable plays. Yeah. And that's what won us the game. Yeah. That's how it worked. Yeah, everyone done their job, but if Luke didn't do what he did on that day, we wouldn't have won the game. Yeah. So it's going to be the same in this game, where in those big moments, who ices those moments, and that's what's going to win the game. I can't predict that, but you know, but I'm sure the game's going to be very close, and if it doesn't come down to a field goal or something crazy like that, well, I don't know what I'm looking at. I won't ask you for a tip because I know who you're going to tip. Well, instead, what I'm going to ask you is why are the Panthers going to win this game?
They're going to win the game because of the fact that they've got more experience there that have done the job. They've got 2 departing players that mean so much to the club for what they've delivered for the club. Those players will want to send them out the way that they think they should be sent out for what they've done, and they've got the best player in the game. You know, the way he controls the game, the way he puts the ball where you don't want it. That's going to be the reason why, you know, they come up trumps.
Yeah, 100%. And that he seemed to stretching out for a tackle. He seemed to maybe flare up that shoulder a little bit, but he's going to be good to go on Sunday night. He'll be ready for this game. Unless
it pops back out, that's the only thing that's going to stop him. And that's probably the only thing that's going to stop Penrith, you know, being able to win the game is losing Nathan at, you know, whatever stage it is. Touch wood. Hopefully that doesn't come to fruition, and he gets the job done, and he plays the way he can play, and that's going to be a big thing for the Penrith team.
Yeah, 100%. Good luck to your Panthers on Sunday night. I hope they have another win for you, and if they win 4 in a row, it'll be a great achievement. So
thanks, Dan.
Fingers crossed that they can get it done. We might just before we wrap up, we might just go back to 2003 now. Your premiership. It was a wet night, that grand final. You were the halfback and captain in that team that won it. So back then, the Roosters, they actually went into that game as favourites. They were pretty heavy favourites to win that one, and you caught them out with an upset win that night.
Well, they, you know, even though we were minor premiers, they should have been, because of the quality they had in their team. They'd been there before, and they knew how to win, especially when you got Brad Fittler leading the team.
Yeah, and they'd won the premiership the previous year in 2002. Yeah.
So I think the wet game sort of helped us a little bit, because we played it through the middle. We had some big boys, and as I said before, it was down to those three big moments from Lukey to get us over the line. So just a wonderful effort from where we come from as a group. We had a pretty poor couple of years before that, and we come from nowhere. But when we got onto a run, it just felt right. And when you gain that confidence, it's amazing where you can go. And I think we used about 21 players that whole year as a group, and we got united, we got connected, and we did what we needed to do to get the job done.
Yeah, Luke Rooney scored a double in that game, as you mentioned. Those big moments from Luke Prittis, the Clive Churchill medalist.
Yep.
Another big moment that I can't leave out, and I know you probably talked about it a million times, is the Scott Sattler tackle on Todd Byrne at 6-all. It was a real momentum turner in the game. He makes that tackle at 6-all, and you go on to win the game 18-6.
Yeah, and that's what I spoke about before, about these big moments that change momentum.
Yeah.
And that was a huge one. As one of the tackles of the ages, the old low tackle across the sideline, and thankfully he got there to get the job done, and that's another part of the game. Well, there you go. There's four players that change the game, or will change momentum, and we're good enough to hang on.
Yeah, 100%. I was just going to, as well, before we finish up, I was just going to ask you about if you got any thoughts on, obviously it was a big shock the other night, the news that, and I know that they're not featuring in the finals, but the news that Kevin Walters had been sacked as Brisbane Broncos coach. It came as a shock.
Yep.
Do you have an opinion on that? Do you think that they should have given him more time, or do you think they were too harsh?
Well, I think that they've had the review, and the information that they've gathered from that review has determined why they sacked him, and it has to be the players.
Okay.
It has to be the players, because you don't make it an external review, and the first people you'd be going to are the players, because at the end of the day they hold the most control. And whoever says what, I think that's how it's determined, and it's simple as that.
Yeah, so it sort of sounds
because
like...
you can't, and I heard some comments about you give him 7 rounds. Well, there's no use giving him 7 rounds. Like, it's all bullshit, that shit. Like, it's either you give him the year or you don't.
Yeah.
And because they've got enough cash, they'll pay him out, and it looks like they'll bring Madge in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how, because Madge is a hard taskmaster, and but also the fact is, as Madge evolved now, after being the State of Origin coach, he's a bit more relaxed, and instead of being pretty intense all the time. So it's going to be interesting. But they've got great players there. Losing Flegler and Farnworth were big losses for them. They had injuries, so there's reasons around why they didn't perform as well. But I think the players they've had their say, and that's why the Broncos pulled the trigger and got rid of him. So
it sort of sounds like you're not. You don't sound too sort of unhappy about it. It sort of sounds like you sort of go, well, it is what it is, that they've made their decision, and that's that.
At the end of the day, the organisation make the decision. Don't get me wrong, it's a harsh one, considering they just re-signed him. So
yeah, and they made a grand final only last season.
Yeah, last season. So, and then they want to go back saying, they only made the finals once out of 4 years, or whatever it is. So it just shows you, becoming a first grade coach is, it's very cutthroat, and it's all about results. And Brisbane are a big club, and they want results. And unfortunately for Kevy, he didn't have the results that they wanted.
Do you think Madge is an ideal candidate for that job?
Well, he's one candidate, so He's been at big clubs. It'll be interesting to see how he's evolved as a coach after coaching Origin as well. But also he's going into the Queensland environment too. Are they going to be accepting of a New South Wales coach as well?
Well, I remember Gordon Tallis had a bit of a blow up with Phil Rothfield about it on NRL 360. Phil Rothfield at that time, obviously Walters hadn't been sacked at that time, and Phil Rothfield suggested, Maguire as another option for the job.
Yep.
And then Tallis sort of fired back at Rothfield and said, look, we don't need your New South Wales coach coaching a Queensland club up here.
Well, at the end of the day, if he goes there and wins them a grand final, I don't really think they care where he's from.
No.
So, you take the best option that's available, and if they think that Mads is the best option to coach the Broncos, well, they should go with that. Doesn't matter what state he's from, because he'll be going there with the mentality that he wants to win. So,
100%. You just want the best coach for the job.
And that's the thing. They'll interview a number of candidates for the role, and it'll be up to them to pick who they think is best for the job.
Do you think that Origin success, and I know he's coaching New South Wales, but that Origin success will help Madge in that? If he does get that Broncos job, will that help him having that recent?
Well,
success?
I think he should do, because he done a great job. Considering they lost the first one, and they had to win up in Queensland, which is not done too often, as you can look at the records. So I just, you've seen a different personality of Madge through the New South Wales campaign. So it'd be good to see if that stays there, or he goes back to more, it's all about business, a bit more hard nosed. But I'd like to see that personality side of Madge sort of stick around, because it lifts the mood up a bit, especially with a team environment.
Yeah, 100%. And he won that premiership with South Sydney in 2014 as well, so he's been there and done it before at NRL level.
Well, and also that he's coached Adam Reynolds as well, so that's going to be Adam's last year. So Adam knows what he's getting, and he'll be a good person with the group to let those guys know how he is and what's expected, and what the values are of how he coaches.
Yeah, 100%. I was just going to ask you what you thought of. We talked a fair bit about the Bulldogs throughout the year. What you thought about how their season just sort of unravelled at the end? They lost those 3 straight games to go out. That whole Josh Addo-Carr saga. Yeah. It was just a bit unsavoury at the end. They'd won 5 in a row and then lost 3 in a row to crash out. Yeah. It all seemed to come crashing down for them a little bit.
But it wasn't like they played poorly against Manly.
No.
Manly just stuck in there. They stuck in there, and I keep harping on, but it was a big moment where they raced out of the line. Cherry Evans seen it half a gap, so he's gone for it. Turbos into the hole. They throw up, bang, Colas down the wing, and they score, and that's the game.
Yeah.
Like, class players, big moments, and that changed, and then that won them the game. But it wasn't like that. Canterbury didn't play well in that game. Yeah. They were unreal. They defended unbelievably. Maybe they just fell a bit short in the way of. They've come from nowhere.
Yeah.
So they come from nowhere, and it's sort of like their end of season just come a bit too quick. But they're going to be better for it. Yeah. And then they're going to get better players next year. The Addo-Carr thing, well, that's disappointing for Josh and the club, and who knows what's going to happen there. But it's certainly not the way that you wanted to go out, especially with Josh having his problems. So. Yeah. But I think it's a wonderful year for the Dogs from where they will come from.
Yeah,
everyone thought they were going to be bottom.
Yeah, they finished 3rd last in 2023, had the worst defensive record. Yeah. Then so they finished 6th this year and had the 3rd best defensive record to finish the season. That's incredible improvement in 12 months.
Yeah, and it just shows you that you get the right players who want to buy into the way that Cam wants to coach, and being more about effort and working for each other, not whinging about training or any of all that sort of stuff. They bought in, and it just shows you what they did. They gained confidence, and they played better. Having Stephen Crichton there was certainly a big driver for that.
Yep.
He had a spectacular season as a person, as a leader, and also on the ground. So that just holds him in good stead for next year. So I'm looking forward to what they can do to, but that doesn't guarantee anything, because next year rolls around and you can have the best pre-season in the world, unless you want to get there and get your hands dirty and get the job done from week one. Well, you're back in the same spot.
Yeah, 100%. And with that Carr, he's on a $550,000 a year salary. He's got one more year to go on that deal. So it sounds like they don't want to sack him because they want to wait for November 1, wait till another club signs him for 26, and then they can go to the table and say, well, we're happy to let him go early, but you need to sort of give us something here to get him to go early. Whereas if they sack him straight away, well, they lose that $550,000 in the salary cap.
Yeah, it's all about playing the game, really. So, but I think they got a young winger coming through that's pretty classy as well. So I think that's why they're not too worried about if he goes, because they need to keep this young fella coming through.
Yeah, 100%. I was just sorry, just one other thing that just came into my head then. This Kalen Ponga situation, as somebody who represented the Kangaroos, very bizarre scenario where first he declared himself unavailable, said he, basically wanted to focus on winning a title with the Knights, and now it seems like he's backflipped on that. Obviously a lot of pressure put on him after he came out and made that declaration. He's backflipped now. He says he's keen to represent Australia. What did you make of that as a former Kangaroo?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty weird actually, because you play football, yes, to represent your club, but those things that you have individually, Origin, playing for the Kangaroos is the highlight of your career, like on a personal level, not on a team level. I think they're different. So it was quite strange. I don't understand why he'd come out and do it the way he did it. He's a bit of a different cat, which is all cool. But for him to turn around now, I wouldn't have him in the team because he didn't want to be there in the first place. Why would you go and pick him?
So at least they know that now, right? At least.
Yeah, and if I was the coach leading down the track, well, is he? And the other side of that, like, how does he know if he's going to win a comp at the Knights anyway? Yeah, he's only one player, and the thing is that what's around him is not up to the other teams. So, and he's not going to do it on his own back. No. So, unless they get some more players there to actually give him a helping hand, I can't see him winning a grand final anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, even
I know he needs to dream big. I get all that, but from my point of view, it's a big call, and like, I'd rather be playing football than doing a pre-season training.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just it's a great time when you're playing in the Kangaroos with your mateship. You're meeting blokes from other teams. You make great relationships out of that. It's just a fun time. But for Kalen, well, obviously it's not that big a deal for him. So, which is fine. But part of your contract, it's that you have to put yourself up. So he should have just had the conversation with Mal first, Peter V'landys, and saying this is the reasons, and then it doesn't get out in the media and you don't look like the way he's looked.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have a ticket for Sunday night? Will you be out there? Will you be going to the game?
I'm going to do a couple of promotions early on, so it's either I stay and watch the game or I get out of there quick and watch it at home on the TV.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for coming on, Craig. All the best to your Panthers on Sunday night, mate. Hope they have a win for you. And, it'd be a remarkable achievement if they win 4 in a row. As we touched on earlier, they'd be the first team to win 4 in a row since that great St George side winning 11 in a row between 56 and 66. So a lot to play for the Panthers, and it'll be a huge game on Sunday night. So best of luck with that, mate. Hope they have a win for you, and thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Dan, thanks very much. Appreciate it.